That's not. Yeah, right. He took
Hello?
off.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
That
If
works
you
better.
were at last month's town hall meeting and you provided an email address, but have not gotten any emails from me since that last meeting, please check your junk mail file. It could have gone in there. Or
that's enough.
perhaps I could not read your writing, so, you might need to add it again tonight. But I have sent a few emails out since we last met. Before we start, I wanna set some ground rules. Whoa.
Slight objection.
Yeah. Everyone has the right to come up here and speak. I know you may not agree with what's being said, and that's perfectly fine. But let's respect each other and be courteous and at least listen to what is being said. I also want to say that there should be no personal attacks on anyone. This is not what this meeting is for. And any board members who are here as residents. They are not here as board members. So I ask you to respect that. If you wish to speak on something, I'm gonna ask that you come to the podium to speak so that everyone has a chance to hear what you need to say. Are there any questions so far? Okay, so, like I said, the topic we will start with is Russ. And there again, anything else that comes about that you would like to talk about. I guess I'll start out with, in case you have not heard or do not receive emails from the Arborwood office, Jim Johnson, effective Monday, August 28th, will no longer be our property manager. Monday and Wednesday, the office hours will be 1 to 4. Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I'm gonna read the email in case some of you did not get it. The latter office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays should allow some residents the opportunity to have access to the manager, where in the past, the schedule may not have afforded such an opportunity. Additionally, after careful consideration and input from the residents at Arborwood in the Summer Tree community, Crystal Tedesco will replace Jim Johnson as the assigned licensed community association manager.
Can you raise it?
Let me see if I can just.
She's so accommodating, so nice. She really is.
Okay, is that any better?
Yeah.
No? If you
Yeah.
can, yeah. Okay, Ron is gonna help us out and turn the sound booth on.
Great.
Also effective Monday, August 28th, we encourage you to visit the Arborwood office and introduce yourself to Ms. Tedesco. We here at Qualified Property Management certainly appreciate the relationship we have established with your community and look forward to continuing to serve Arborwood for years to come. Does anybody want to comment on that or have a response? Nope. Okay, on to Russ. As many of you know, Sandy Dolan, who is a board member, and Helping Hands Committee cleaned the rust from Arborwood on about 80 homes back in February or March, I believe. Fred Stahl was cleaning the rust off last month. As many of you have noticed, it's coming back where he's brought to my attention. I don't know if that's secure or not, but one person told me they believe the wells needed to be dug deeper. Like I said, I don't know if that's a solution, but it was brought to my attention that perhaps that could help. Do any of you have any, Ron?
What they supposed to do, a study?
This might,
They're supposed to. And
green,
depends on it.
I don't see enough. Green.
They're making
Is
out.
that any better?
Yeah.
Okay. Technical adjustments.
Hello, hello.
Is that correct? Yes.
I'm the tester.
Okay, now that we're finished testing.
Hold it closer to your mouth.
Okay, thank you. I don't wanna swallow it, but, does anybody have any input that they would like to come forth with on the rust issue?
I do.
Yes, one of our board members, Fred, he was removing rust around the neighborhood also, because I did like all of Rose Tree Drive and Yellow Birch Court a number of months ago, and of course the rust just came back, so I said I'm not going to do it anymore. So he did it, and unfortunately, the day that night, we got sprinkled on Rose Tree, and the rust came right back again. Now, some details about the last company that's hired, which was Florida Water. I was on the board at that time, and I told Jim Johnson, I said, Jim, it's his job to hire and investigate any vendors that we hire. I said, we need to thoroughly investigate this company. Louder? Yes. Yeah. Okay, and this was the third company we were hiring to do this job, just to remove the rust from the water. The first two obviously didn't work. So this one, I said, we really need to investigate this company and make sure they can do the job. And about a week later, he comes to me, he says, well, would you be willing to drive to some of the communities that they have done this with? I said, sure. He says, well, they got one in Tampa. I said, well, Tampa? I said, you mean they're located in Dunedin in Pinellas County? I mean, the only community they have similar to ours is in Tampa, and they don't have any in Pasco County or Pinellas County? And he just, well, I guess not. And so at the next board meeting, all of a sudden he surprises me with, we're going to have a vote on hiring this Florida Water. And of course, the three of the men on the board voted for it. You know, I voted against it because we hadn't really vetted the company. And so that's why we're back in the same situation again. And Don Kelly was nice enough to actually show us all how much we've spent on this over the last 2.5 years. Total costs of the past 2.5 years for installation and maintenance of the wells, $138,318. Wow. Okay, and it would be crazy even if we did get the rust removed, but the fact is the rust is still here. I don't see an end in sight. There's no plan. I will say one thing, just having these meetings is putting a lot of pressure on them. And whether we do anything or not, they know, now they can see how many residents are actually angry. And there's, there was only probably, right now, half the residents are still gone till probably October, November. And yes, a question?
Yeah, what causes the rust?
The rust is natural in the ground. And I haven't done a lot of research on it, but I think for sprinkler systems, you're only allowed to drill so deep. So, Qualified Property Management, who manages where Jim comes from, has all these communities all over the place. Now, I would think that some of those communities might have the same problem, and why not use that as a source to find a company that can do the job? And right now, they haven't done the job. This company may be able to do it, but obviously they were unprepared to handle it. And the worst part of all, when they gave them the contract, there was nothing about them removing rust. And I asked Fred, well, why not? Well, they wanted $8,000 to go around and remove rust. I says, well, that's a good signal right there that they weren't going to remove the rust. They had no confidence they could do it, in other words. So we just got to keep on them to take care of the problem. And there's probably some simple solutions to it, but they just can't seem to figure it out. So any other comments about the rust? Yes, sir.
I spoke with Fred a few weeks ago when he was doing that rust works, and he mentioned that they had talked with Cross Creek, the people that do theirs, and they don't have rust. He said, it sounded like they were gonna get them to rust. I don't know if that was just a story or what.
Well, my experience of driving through Cross Creek, they don't have a lot of rust, but I still see some rust.
Yeah.
And they also require I believe, maybe somebody knows that lives in Cross Creek. Zeke, you would know. Did they require you to remove your own rust from there?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, just in the mailboxes. The mailboxes.
Oh, just on the mailboxes, okay.
And the houses.
And the houses too, okay, so and we don't wanna get into that, we're already paying enough fees to our $248 a month, is, to me, I want, we're paying the fees, we need to get the service. And, is that, you wanna go to another subject?
Can I
No, I'd
Yes.
like
can I
to-
say something about Florida water?
Come to the-
Yeah.
come to the
Oh, okay.
microphone.
Here,
There I go. That's great. That's great.
Hi, my name is Ben Rubin. I live on White Ash Drive. I don't know if everyone got this in the mail. Florida Water Analysis. That's the same company that's taking care of the water here. So they have a vested interest. I don't think they care about our water. They care about selling you giving you a free inspection of your water so they can sell you water quality inspection. They want to sell you filters for your house. That's what they want to do. Second of all, can I get to another subject?
No,
All
not
right.
yet.
That's my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait just a second, and then I'll ask you another.
Hi, Sandy Weber. I don't have a lot to add, except that I did have a message from Ken Jennings in Cross Creek, who I believe is the president of their board, saying that Cross Creek has wells for irrigation, and their rust stains are minimal because of the treatment system they have. And I don't know what treatment system they have, but I think it'd be worthwhile for somebody to talk to Cross Creek and find out what they're doing.
Sounds good.
Olga?
That's what the board should do.
Yeah, yeah.
Where are they?
We should ask every community in here first, and then went to all the communities that UPL has.
I'm not sure, but
Yes.
because Cross
They
Creek
don't have
is
an
one of
address.
the most recent
Huh?
of our communities, my question is, did they install new pipes in their community? And if so, doesn't that make a difference? Because our pipes were installed in
30 years.
way back in '87 or so? Does anyone know? Doesn't it make a difference that their pipes are new and ours are very old? Roger.
What are we supposed to have?
Okay, anybody else like to talk about the rust situation.
I have a question. Did that problem exist before they put the wells in?
No.
Okay, is it, I'm going back to last month's meeting when we talked about the rust.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it safe? Yes, ma'am.
A little bit closer.
I've been told I have a big mouth, so I cannot imagine that you have trouble hearing me, but. Okay, is it safe to assume that everyone, well, most people here want to continue to pursue the rust situation and getting it resolved?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, last week, the committee that was formed from last month's meeting met, and we came up with a petition to have residents sign to turn into the board of directors. I'm gonna pass it around, and when you are signing this petition, you need to make sure that you are the voting member in your household.
Absolutely.
For instance, I'm gonna use Ben and Merrill as an example. One of you, when you came to Arborwood, agreed to be the voting person. Only that person may sign this petition. So, and if your spouse is the voting person in your household and they are not here, if you will come up to me after the meeting and let me know, I will be glad to come to your house to get their signature or, make arrangements to do so.
Lori,
So,
a quick
yes.
question. I don't know which of us is designated signer. I just don't know. How do
Well,
I
who
find out?
votes at the annual meeting?
Me.
Okay, then you're
Me.
so
So-
it is the person who votes at the annual meeting
Yeah.
for the board of directors who is the person who
I should've
votes in your household.
Yeah.
So I am going to start a petition on each side. I've got pens and I'm gonna send a pad of paper around so you have something to write on. The petition reads, fix the rust, then paint.
Yes, that's right.
And
Not the other way around.
we are thinking, when we had this committee meeting, our thoughts were, it's frivolous to paint these homes if we still have a rust problem.
Yes. Yep.
And why spend the money to do so unless we're all gonna select rust-colored paint? So it reads, fix the rust, then paint. To the Arborwood Board of Directors, we, the undersigned property owners of Arborwood, believe it is counterproductive and costly to paint the exteriors of our homes without first fully and completely addressing the issue of rust emanating from our irrigation system. Therefore, we call upon the board to deal with first things first and fix the rust problem before any painting begins. Also, I have a few extra copies of this. If you would be willing to go out and ask any of your neighbors that are not present tonight to sign this petition, we would certainly appreciate it. I can't do this on my own. I do have a great committee that I'm sure will be more than willing to help, but we need to unite and help each other. So I will start one on each side. If you run, well, I'm sure you will, I'll just put 2 on each pad of paper. Okay, any more discussion on rust. Yes, Maggie, would you come to the podium, please? That way everybody is assured of hearing you, because you might have the solution to this problem.
Liz here?
Hi, Maggie Coombs. If there is no resolution to this rust problem, I mean, how many companies will they go through? As you drive through Florida, you see this rust everywhere. Is the solution to go back to the water that we originally had and just do away with the wells? I don't know. What's the sense in even holding off? And our houses aren't gonna get painted. I mean, does anybody think that there's a reasonable solution to this rust problem? Anybody have any knowledge? I know I don't.
Yeah, maybe we need to just.
I have no knowledge on it, but I feel like there has to be an answer. With as many HOAs that are in the state of Florida, and I'm sure some of your more elite communities are not having a rust problem. Now, it may cost us more, because maybe it's a different kind of a chemical or more of the same chemical, but I truly believe there has to be an answer to this. Rose?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rose Stankovich, and I live on English Elm. I hope you can all hear me. Okay, I have the same letter, and I think it's important that,
Rose, hold the
Sorry.
mic, yeah. hold
I
it.
think it's important to know, why was Jim Johnson the one responsible for finding the people to take care of the rust? What happened to our board of
Why do
directors?
we have a board?
Well,
I got the answer.
I-
Want me to give you the answer?
And while we're at it, since you're up here, we already talked about Florida water treatment. Suncoast Rust, $45,900. Who were they?
They were the second company.
Okay, and the last question I have before I let you have the floor is, why would we sign an agreement with a company and not get any type of warranty or service after?
Good question.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim Johnson, part of his contract, he's the LCAM manager. It's his job to hire and investigate all these contractors, okay? It still has to be approved by the board of directors, and the contract has to be signed by the president of the board of directors, Richard Nielsen. Okay, and why we can't go back to the old system? Because when we put our own wells in, the wells that used to be used for sprinkling were from Utilities Incorporated. They closed those wells and filled them up, so there's no going back. And now that we got Pasco County water, I don't know if we can use drinking water for this, for sprinkling anyway, and if we did, it would be so outlandishly expensive, you wouldn't be able to afford it. So, and I actually think that the company we have now, if it was managed properly, would get rid of the rust. And the reason I feel that is because I did some experiments myself, where I was cleaning some rust and then waiting to see how long it was going to take to come back. And in some cases, it took a month and a half. So, and all the time, the excuses we were getting was, well, the chemical ran out, or so I think the system is just poorly managed by the company. They should be running out of chemicals. We had a problem with one of the wells, and then they got locks on the doors, and I was told that two of the wells, somebody turned the bypass valve on, and it was bypassing the filtration process. So I think with proper management of it, I think the company we have will eventually work, but we have to have somebody in charge that's gonna manage this problem because, and to put the pressure on the company to say, look, you gotta manage this, you know, because you know, we had to buy all those filtration systems up front, which cost $47,000. And so I don't wanna waste that. I think it can be done, but it just has to be managed properly. What was the other question we had? I can't remember.
Why would we sign a contract without getting some kind of a warranty?
Yeah.
That's a very good question. Like I said, if they were actually confident they're gonna get rid of the rust and problem, there should have been something in the contract that said, well, if there's any residual rust on the houses, we'll clean it up.
Right.
Right? That was not in the contract.
Don't you,
And our president, Richard Nielsen, is one that signed it.
don't you feel like our board of directors should take more of a control over what kind of contracts Jim Johnson or whoever is?
Absolutely. The board of directors are responsible for supervising Jim Johnson. Okay? Jim Johnson actually works for the Qualified Property Management, but we're responsible for managing Jim Johnson, or whoever is going to be in charge now. So yeah, there's been a big lack of supervision there, a big lack of investigation of people you hire, and so there has to be a big change there. Like I said, just being here puts a lot of pressure on the board of directors. They know what's going on, and they're you know, we have to do something, and of course that may come to when we get the petition out, and maybe see what happens with that, and see if they can get this thing corrected. Because, like I say, there's no sense in painting the houses unless you're going to paint them all the same color as the rest. Yes.
Can the sprinklers be adjusted so that they don't hit the houses?
No.
Not completely.
It's great as long as there's never a breeze. Okay, so yes, it would help. It would help, but it's a sprinkling, and especially you never know if there's any kind of a breeze at all. It's going to blow all over the place. So that's not the solution. It would help though, and they're supposed to be doing that, by the way. In fact, you know, when you got a problem with your sprinkler, you go to the office, and what's he say? Fill out a work order.
Right, exactly,
Right?
exactly.
Well, according to their contract, the lot contract, they're supposed to inspect all the sprinklers every month to make sure they work and for proper coverage. And we know they're not doing that, right? Because this past summer we had brown grass all around the whole neighborhood.
We also had a drought.
We had a drought, yes. But
Why are you stopping Jim Johnson?
why am I what?
Leaving his job?
Why am I stopping?
Why is Jim Johnson leaving, he's quitting or what?
That I haven't got the answer to. All we got is an email was that he was leaving.
He was leaving.
And they're rotating out. In other words, they're gonna put him someplace else and rotating this lady in. And I heard that she was working someplace else in here. Am I wrong? I don't know. Anyway, we'll see what happens with her. I wouldn't wish anybody to have the job to take over that office because it's such a pig pen. But we'll see what happens there. But yeah, he wasn't doing the job, and I'm not sure about the management company either, because when I first went on the board of directors, we went down to, myself and Don Kelly went down to the office, and they just raved about how great Jim Johnson was. And we said, we want him fired, you know, so, and this was back, what, a year and a half ago, so we'll see what happens, but I don't have a good answer for that right now. Any other questions? I might be able to answer. Oh, there was one other thing. As far as signing the petition, if the house is owned by two people, you know, like you're married or something, or both cohabitating and you both own the house, either one can vote. Okay? But you both can't vote. So, at the same time, so either one of you know, as long as you're an owner,
Better believe it.
as long as there's one vote per household.
One more question.
Yes.
You said they were inspecting the wells and you didn't get we didn't get a report yet, right?
what?
The wells, inspecting the wells.
Oh. They were supposed to inspect the wells and, get back to me, but they never did, Jim never did. He said he was gonna, before we paid for the equipment, he was gonna have a separate company come in and inspect the water to make sure all the rust was out of there. And I never heard another word about it, but, yes, ma'am.
So if we sign this petition, how long, what happens if the rust doesn't get solved in 2 years or in 3 years? How long?
No, that's not acceptable.
Well, we have to take one step at a time, but right now, I can tell you just the little bit of pressure we put on them already we're getting a manager changeover. And, so, we just gotta keep the pressure on, and maybe they'll get, some experts in here to
You know
figure.
what I mean? I don't want rust and no paint.
Oh, yeah, I agree. But I don't think, I think the rust problem can be fixed, like, within a week if they just get somebody managing, and then they could, do the, paint. Any other questions for me?
I got one other question.
Yes.
Can the state of Florida do anything about it?
There is no agency in the state of Florida that oversees homeowners association. The only thing you could do is the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. All they do is if there's a big disagreement in the community, they'll mediate the thing, but that's all they do.
Yeah, there's no water management,
Not to my
Not for
knowledge.
irrigation wells.
okay.
Yes.
Mel, it seems to me that the one thing that is working is this meeting. Because since we had that meeting last month, we've had some action.
Yeah.
And this is happening, and talking about it is helping a lot.
And all you have to do is tell these board members, when you see them or
You
talk
bet
to
you.
them, that there's a storm brewing.
Yeah.
And,
I think-
folks have a
I think
storm,
they
and
know.
do
I think
something,
they
or
know.
The storm is gonna get them.
Yeah,
Okay,
they know.
Thank you, Mel.
Oh,
No, I don't wanna give Utilities Inc. any credit, but when they had their wells in and they were supplying irrigation water, whatever system they were using, it worked.
we didn't have rust.
We didn't have rust, so what's the difference between their well water that was being treated and now our well water?
That's a very good question. They were also giving us drinking water, so maybe they were allowed to drill a.
Was that potable
deeper.
water that they were using for irrigation? I mean, actually drinking water?
Yes,
So it was fully treated then, in other words?
it was fully treated.
Wow.
But my question is, why didn't they ask them, what are you doing to treat the water to get the rest of it?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Why their
that's a very
system
good
works.
question, and I don't
We
have
already
the
have
answer.
the wells, we don't have to pay for the water anymore, but if we had to step up and pay for a little extra to use their same filtration system.
Yeah, they removed everything, unfortunately, they removed everything, including the
Right, well, we
wells.
don't need their wells, we have our own well.
Yeah, right.
But we're
We
still
just
paying.
need a filtration system.
Some
and
kind of a
theirs is
filtration
working.
system, that's what,
Yeah,
On
You're
their wells.
you're absolutely right.
good point.
You're speaking to the choir.
yeah.
I'm just saying, did they look into that at all? What system?
I
they
doubt
were
it, I doubt it.
The board doesn't do anything.
They will this time.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, when is the next election?
Next election is a little ways off, it's being March.
Very
That's when
good.
the annual meeting is, and they'll have the election. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't get involved. I think now with only half the people here, this is right now more than we have at the last meeting, I think,
Yes.
board meeting. And so I think if people get really interested in, they'll make a better decision on the next election. And so this will be some big subjects in here to talk about before the next election. But hopefully we can solve the rust problem sooner, but that's not the only problem. We have problems with other vendors, a lot. They do a lot of good things, but a lot of things they don't do. And if I may, can I, where'd Lori go? Okay.
No.
But, yes,
Now you're gonna run again?
the answer is probably no.
Oh,
It depends what goes on with this, so.
Okay.
If they really needed me, yeah, but I think there's a lot of great people in here that could do a better job.
we'd like to see you back.
Okay, Sandy?
of hope for everybody in here, that they are working on alarm systems for the wells, that's all I can say about that. But if you go to the next meeting, it's in September sometime, and they'll be discussing that. So that might be a positive, that might be an answer to the problem that we're having here. But I just would like to say, I commend all of you for being strong, sticking together, and getting a job done. According to the email, it was all of you that eliminated Jim Johnson. And if we all stick together, and we have other issues, and we all work on it, we can solve a lot of problems together, because like I told you last month, I'm only one voice, but they're gonna listen to all your voices, and that's how we're getting things done. And I commend you, and I thank you for such support that I have, and I hope I get continued support like this, because Arborwood is a community that is a nice place, and I think once we get together and we stick together, we're gonna have a better place to live, and we won't just stop at Jim Johnson. So, thanks.
Hi, those of you who don't know me, my name is Pete Lucatoro. I just wanted to say Sandy came up with really a very reasonable point, and that is Cross Creek, they use basically the same water we do, and they got rid of the bulk of their rust problem. Why haven't we, and why won't we follow what they did and ask them what they did? That's a real easy solution today. As far as the company we're talking about here, there's a difference between our irrigation water and our drinking water. They're talking about drinking water. They're just like any other one of those companies. They constantly solicit trying to get you to test your water, but there's no connection between our drinking water and that water. So it's just a regular solution, a solicitation. Okay, but I think Sandy came up with a really good idea. I think maybe we should try and ask the board to follow that logic. It would work a lot faster than anything else.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Pete.
Any solution?
Sorry, I know I'm being really vocal tonight.
She's very short.
First, I want to thank Mel, because
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned a lot tonight, Mel, and I appreciate your input. And second of all, to address the situation, the question of a lot adjusting the sprinklers, well, here's a receipt for $100 that it cost Diane to get the rust taken off of her car, because as much as they adjust it, it doesn't help. That's it. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes, sir.
I know she put some guards on yours, didn't you? Yeah.
My name is Dave Lawrence, I live on Scotch Pine, and earlier I heard somebody mention that the water coming out of the ground was rusty. I'm not a scientist, I'm not an engineer, but I spent 33 years on a submarine, and I never saw rust down in the water. You know how the cycle of water goes, the rain goes through, it's filtered to the ground. There's no rust down there. The rust is coming from the piping and the wells. It's not the water in the ground. So that's where we have to find somebody to take care of the problem with the water at the wells through the piping to the houses. And it's probably because I would guess the piping running down the streets is either galvanized or steel. Because they put it in back in about 85. They didn't have PVC piping then. So it's not the rust coming out of the ground. I put in 4 wells at my home, at different homes, and I personally dug one to use to irrigate my flowers and everything. You don't get rusty water out of the ground. It has to come from a source, whether it's oxidation of steel and air. Thank you.
Okay, well, it sounds like we have the ball rolling on ideas and thoughts. Okay, we're working at getting the
Petition going.
sheets. The petition, thank you. Okay. Am I hearing from you correctly that you would like a letter sent to the board members asking them to investigate what Cross Creek is doing?
Sounds good, yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Discussed last month.
Can't vote.
I'm sorry, but I am not good at multitasking, and if I don't write it down, I will probably forget. Okay, so, yes, ma'am.
I think Cross Creek is definitely the way to go, but also check
No,
what
they're not having any irrigation.
pipes are.
Pipes.
They've stopped irrigating.
No, it's all PVC.
Are they PVC? No, somebody's saying no.
He didn't know. And there is rust in the water.
When the city water hooked up, I talked to someone and they said that's our major problem, it's the pipes.
Okay.
Pipes coming from where?
We just don't wanna go with another company.
Right.
Could be.
Especially since we paid to have these systems installed on the wells.
I mean, maybe.
And I think just jumping from company to company is perhaps counterproductive. Okay, does that complete the discussion on the rust?
Yes.
Lori, what about the fairways? They have their own wells down there, and they don't have rust on their houses,
But that's a fairway.
and they irrigate.
They said that.
Yes, them
as
well.
Okay, we can check with the fairways.
And these aren't irrigating anymore, so you can't ask them anymore.
Okay.
Who gave up?
Their management company said no more irrigation.
Really?
How do you do that? Wait till the summer's over.
Wait for the rain.
Okay, so are we finished with rust?
I just got one more thing to say.
Oh, come on.
And I'm sorry too, I don't mean to be a chatterbox.
No, no.
But the thing is we have a board of directors and we have a property manager. The board oversees the property manager. The property manager was not doing his job, and that's why he is no longer with us. And if the board doesn't agree on certain things, they just vote for it. You only need 3 votes out of 5. So whatever they decide that they wanna do, as far as the wells, the water, the brush, and so forth, then that's just the way it is. And that's why I think it's important for the community to get involved and not leave the decisions just up to the board members. Because who is it affecting? It's not affecting the board, it's affecting